I went hiking in the Appalachian Mountains just over a year ago. I was 34 and needed a break from everything. My breakup had hit me hard. I thought being in nature and focusing on wildlife photography would help me clear my mind. I packed my camera gear and drove out to a secluded spot. Setting up my tent felt peaceful. I thought I was finally getting a chance to recharge. As night fell, I listened to the familiar sounds of the woods. I expected crickets and maybe an owl or two. But then I heard something strange, a soft humming that floated through the trees. At first, I thought it was just the wind. I shrugged my shoulders, trying to convince myself not to worry. But the night was so still. It was the kind of stillness that made everything feel loud. After a while, the humming faded, and I managed to drift off to sleep. The second night was a different story. The humming returned, and it sounded closer this time. I woke up with my heart racing. I scanned the dark around me, feeling uneasy. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something move. I blinked hard but saw nothing. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, brushing off my nerves. Maybe it was all in my head. The next day, I pushed the weirdness aside. I hiked deeper into the woods, determined to find beautiful shots. But the unease stayed with me. I heard branches snapping behind me, but whenever I turned, no one was there. It shouldn't have felt so eerie, but it did. Back at the campsite that evening, I was hit with another chill. My backpack had been moved. I remembered leaving it by a tree, but now it was near the fire pit. I shook my head, trying to convince myself it was just my own forgetfulness. On the third night, the humming returned. But it was different this time. It felt alive, almost like it was calling to me. I wanted to chase it, but I stayed frozen in place. I caught sight of a dark figure flitting between the trees. I blinked, and it was gone. A wave of fear washed over me, and I grabbed my camera, hoping to see something through the lens. That's when I noticed symbols carved into the tree trunks. They hadn't been there before. I stumbled back, my heart racing. I felt a prickling sensation on my neck. Someone was there, watching. "Hello?" I called out, but only the wind answered. I needed to leave, but I wanted answers. Something wasn't right. On my final night, as I packed up, I heard a voice. It was soft and whispered. I turned quickly, my heart pounding, but there was nothing. I felt a shadow pass just behind me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was never alone in those woods. That night, I left in a hurry, feeling like I was being chased. Even now, I think about what happened. Those encounters still haunt me, and I wonder if I'll ever understand the darkness hiding in those woods. I didn't return to the Appalachian Mountains for a long time. After that experience, I avoided the outdoors. I buried myself in work and spent my weekends inside. But little did I know, the memories wouldn't stay buried. They resurfaced in dreams, every noise amplified, every shadow threatening. I felt trapped in my own mind. It was only months later, on a random Saturday morning, that I found myself scrolling through my old hiking photos. At first, it felt comforting. The mountains had once brought me joy. But then, something caught my eye. A picture one I hadn't remembered taking showed my campsite from a distance. In the corner of the frame, just behind the trees, I could see a figure. My heart raced. I zoomed in, but the image was blurry, and I couldn't make out any details. Panic set in. How could I have taken this and not noticed? I grabbed my camera, rushing to check the SD card. The images appeared normal at first, each moment capturing the beauty of the trail until I reached the final folder. There it was again, another photograph, even clearer than the first. This time, the figure stood further back, partially hidden. The familiar hum echoed in my mind, bringing back fears I wished to forget. That night, I hardly slept. I replayed the images in my head, and I felt a mix of dread and curiosity. I needed to go back. A part of me thought I might find answers, but another part, the rational side, warned against it. I found myself packing my gear again, the camera feeling heavier this time. The drive back felt endless. Each curve of the road sent waves of anxiety rushing over me. Could I really confront whatever haunted me? I pulled into the same spot as before. Everything looked the same, yet it felt different, charged with an energy I couldn't place. I hesitated, but I forced myself to set up camp. That night, I sat by the fire, a strange calm settling in. I was determined to document anything unusual. The woods seemed quieter, but my stomach tightened as shadows danced on the tree line. The moment darkness enveloped the area, the humming returned. It was closer this time, more insistent, almost beckoning. That I grabbed my camera and switched on my flashlight, following the sound. The forest loomed like a wall around me, but I pressed on, a strange urge pulling me forward. The path twisted in ways I didn't remember, and I felt disoriented. How far had I walked? Then everything changed. The hum converged into a rhythm that felt familiar, echoing in my chest. I stumbled upon an opening, a clearing I had missed before. In the center stood an altar of stone, surrounded by those very symbols I'd seen on the trees. My breath caught. Something thick hung in the air, something ancient, and there it was. The figure emerged, just beyond the edge of the clearing, its outline flickering. My heart thudded as I raised the camera to my face. The moment I pressed the shutter, the world around me grew still. I thought maybe, just maybe, I would finally uncover the truth. But when I looked again, it was gone. Only a whisper in the air remained, echoing in the silence. With trembling hands, I backed away slowly. I needed to leave, but the sense of urgency pressed against me, urging me to stay a moment longer, to understand this new threat. Something was watching. I felt the weight of the shadows pressing in on me. Somewhere out there, hidden among the trees, something was waiting. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I just witnessed was more than a trick of the light. My instincts screamed at me to flee back to the safety of my camp, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I stood rooted to the spot. Then, suddenly, I heard it again, the low hum, more pronounced this time. It wasn't merely a sound, it felt like a presence wrapping itself around me. I turned my flashlight toward the sound, the beam cutting through the darkness. Nothing. Just the trees, sturdy and silent. "Hello?" I called out, the word barely escaping my lips. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the night. Silence answered me. I took a hesitant step backwards but froze when I spotted movement. A shadow flickered in the periphery of my vision. I swung the flashlight around, revealing a figure for just a heartbeat, a woman's silhouette standing among the trees. Her hair was long and wild, her face obscured. "Is someone there?" I shouted again, though my heart pounded in my chest. The shadows shifted, and I fought the urge to run. The humming crescendoed, filling my chest with dread. I didn't know if I should approach or retreat. My camera felt heavy in my hands, but I couldn't deny the need to document this moment. I took a deep breath, focusing my light on the figure again. But she was gone. That I turned in a circle, scanning the trees. The panic rose in me, tightening my throat. Had I imagined it? My mind raced back to the photos, the symbols etched in my memory. Was she connected to it somehow? Or was I losing my grip on reality? It was then I noticed a slight movement at the altar. Something glinted under the flashlight beam. I edged closer, compelled by a force I didn't understand. The symbols on the stone were familiar, pulling me closer. I crouched next to the altar, my heart racing as I examined it. Etched into the stone was a carving that resembled the figure I had seen. I reached out and brushed my fingers along the surface. Instantly, a jolt shot through me, like static electricity. Images flashed behind my closed eyelids, visions of the mountains, of dark figures merging with the trees, of fear cascading over a landscape bathed in moonlight. When I opened my eyes, my breath caught in my throat. The woman stood before me again, closer than before, her gaze piercing right through me. I stumbled back and fell against the altar, gasping. "Who are you?" I tried to ask, but the words stuck in my throat. The humming shifted, morphed into a cacophony of whispers. They echoed off the trees, swirling around me. I struggled to make sense of it all, to find a thread of meaning, but the sensation of being watched intensified. Then, just as quickly, the whispers stopped. The forest fell eerily silent again. I looked around, hyper-aware of the woods closing in like a trap. Something pulled at my instincts. I needed to leave. But before I could turn, a single word sliced through the silence, a command, clear and unmistakable. "Stay." My heart raced. The air felt charged, electric, a warning I couldn't ignore. But my survival instinct kicked in. I had to get back to the safety of my tent. As I turned to run, the darkness opened up around me, revealing an unseen path. I dashed back through the trees, branches snagging my clothes. I couldn't look back. Whatever was behind me was close. When I reached my camp, I sank beside the fire, breathing heavily, trembling. I had just escaped something I didn't fully understand. The flames crackled, casting shadows over the campsite, warding off the encroaching dark, but I felt it then, a presence lingering just beyond the light's reach, waiting. The fire flickered, casting long shadows that danced around the campsite as the night deepened. I tried to steady my breathing, but the tightness in my chest wouldn't ease. The warmth of the flames was a thin barrier against the chill creeping in, an unwelcome reminder of the presence that lingered beyond the light. I shifted uncomfortably, glancing at my tent. It loomed in the darkness like a silent sentry. I had planned on a quiet night, just me and nature, but now I felt like an intruder in an unseen realm. Questions buzzed around my mind like bees. Who was that woman? What did the symbols mean? And why did I feel so drawn to the altar? The fire crackled, pulling me from my thoughts. I reached for a stick to poke at the flames, desperate for distraction. Just as I was about to convince myself it was all in my head, a rustle came from the tree line. My heart raced again. It wasn't just an animal. It was something else, something purposeful. "Is anyone there?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. The forest was quiet, as if it held its breath, waiting for a response. Sweat trickled down my back despite the cold. I felt like a fool, talking to shadows. Then I noticed a glimmer in the trees, something white and smooth jutting out from behind a cluster of bushes. Curiosity piqued, I grabbed my flashlight and slowly stood. I approached the edge of the clearing, the beam cutting through the shadows. As I moved closer, the object became clearer. A bone. My stomach wrenched as I recognized it, a human bone, bleached white by time, lying half buried in the underbrush. The sweep of my flashlight revealed more pieces of clothing snagged on branches, the remnants of what looked like an old camping gear. Panic surged through me. Were these the belongings of another hiker? Did they run into whatever had been lurking tonight? A sobering chill washed over me as the implications set in. I stumbled back from the discovery, the light flickering over the remnants, illuminating something glinting. My heart dropped when I saw a small tag hung from a piece of fabric. Emily, the name read. "Lost, please help." The words cut through me. Who was Emily? Had she been here recently? The whispers flared to life again in my mind, echoing with urgency. I turned to shout for help, but I was alone. That's when I felt it, an unmistakable presence closing in behind me. Not just a feeling, I could sense a figure standing there, watching. I whipped around, but nothing was there. Just darkness. That I blinked rapidly, my mind racing. I had to leave. The presence was real, and it was hungry. As I bolted back toward the fire, I heard it again, the hum. This time, it felt like a call, pulling me back. Suddenly, the air felt thick, suffocating. The warmth from the fire dimmed, and my flashlight flickered before dying altogether. I stumbled, plunged into darkness, then I heard the whispers again, louder, overlapping. "Stay, come back, find her," my heart pounded. I scrambled for matches, but my hands trembled too much to strike them. I was running out of time. I needed to understand, to piece together what had happened to Emily and what this place had become. As I stumbled through the growing darkness, I realized that whatever had called to me was still chasing me. And it wouldn't stop until it found what it was looking for. Fear gripped me as I turned away from the remnants. I sprinted back toward the fire, praying it would still be there. The sound of the whispers faded, but I could still feel the pull from the darkness. I reached the campsite, and to my disbelief, the flames danced brightly again, flickering to life as if nothing had happened. I gasped, trying to catch my breath, but my chest tightened even more. I had to stay focused. I grabbed the matchbox and struck one against my jeans. The tiny flame sparked to life, and I quickly lit another log in the fire. The warmth washed over me, but it did little to chase away the chill that ran through my bones. I glanced around nervously, half expecting someone or something to emerge from the shadows. I forced myself to look at the remnants of Emily's belongings again. That tag haunted me. There had to be a connection between us, a reason I felt drawn to whatever had happened here. But what if I didn't want to know? Taking a deep breath, I scoured the area, looking for anything else, something that might explain the mystery. I picked up a torn piece of fabric, its rough edges revealing more faded writing, but the words were too smudged to read clearly. I shoved it into my pocket for later. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed through the trees. It was a scream, raw and terrifying. My blood ran cold. It came from deeper within the woods. My instinct screamed at me to run, yet something anchored me to my spot. I had to know if it was Emily. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky and weak. No response came, just the rustle of leaves and branches swaying gently. An icy wind whipped through the clearing, sending chills down my spine. I grabbed the flashlight again, hoping it would cut through the darkness. As I turned it on, I felt relieved, but that relief shattered as the beam illuminated a figure standing at the edge of the trees. My breath hitched. It was a woman, thin and gaunt, her long hair hanging in tangled strands. Her face was obscured in shadow, but I could feel her gaze piercing through the night. "Emily?" I whispered, hope battling against fear. She took a step forward, and the whispers returned, rushing back in a frenzy. "Find me." Her voice was a distant echo, barely more than a breath. Everything in me screamed to run, but I hesitated. I needed to know. "What happened to you?" I managed to say. The woman's form wavered as if the light struggled to hold her. "You must help," she whispered again, voice trembling. Then, like a flicker of flame blown out by the wind, she vanished into the darkness. Panic surged. Did I lose her? I swung the flashlight around, heart racing as dread took hold of my thoughts. If I failed to find her, whatever had tormented her might be after me next. I took a step toward the shadows, heart pounding. But then I heard it, the rustle again, closer this time. Something was coming. I needed to decide: stay and confront the unknown or run for safety. The fire crackled behind me, its warmth fading. I closed my eyes, heart thundering. A decision loomed larger than the forest around me, with consequences I couldn't begin to comprehend. Then I heard the whispers again, loud and clear. "Come back, find her." I felt the terror creeping back in, but a deeper resolve hardened in my chest. I had to find out what happened to Emily, even if it meant walking into the darkness. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, the flashlight beam cutting through the ink-black trees. I felt absurdly vulnerable, alone in the oppressive silence. The shadows danced around me, shifting as if alive, making it impossible to shake the feeling that eyes were watching. "Emily!" I called again. My voice echoed but was swallowed by the night. Ignoring the instinct to flee, I moved deeper into the trees. The rustling had stopped, replaced by an uneasy stillness. Every crack of twigs under my feet felt like thunder. I tried to remember what she looked like, what she might want from me. I couldn't shake the urgency in her words. As I crept forward, I spotted something on the ground, a shiny object half buried in leaves. Kneeling, I brushed away the dirt and revealed a silver locket, slightly tarnished but still beautiful. I opened it, my breath hitching when I saw a photograph inside. A younger Emily smiled back at me, her eyes sparkling with life, but there was something else. Underneath the photograph, a small piece of paper was folded tightly. I unfolded it, heart racing, and read the messy scrawl. "Help me. They take everything. I'm not safe." A shiver ran down my spine. Who were they? I stood up, clutching the locket tight. I had to find her. I couldn't just leave this place without answers. The wind picked up suddenly, rustling the branches above and sending a chill through my bones. Shadows shifted again, and I could be sworn I heard a faint sobbing. My heart pounded louder, urging me to go deeper, closer to the source of the sound. "Emily!" I shouted again, more desperate this time. "Where are you?" I pressed onward, but the sobbing grew louder, twisting my gut into knots. I stepped cautiously, following the noise until I stumbled upon a small clearing. The moonlight seeped through the branches, illuminating a patch of ground that seemed strangely untouched by the chaos around it. At the center, there was something vivid, a circle of vibrantly colored flowers. It felt out of place, like a beacon pushing back the darkness. I knelt to examine them, sensing an odd sense of calm. The sobbing faded, replaced by soft whispers, urging me to listen. Suddenly, a shadow flitted through the corner of my eye, and I turned to see a figure emerging from the trees. Panic surged through me, and I gripped the flashlight tighter, the beam flickering and dimming as I panned it toward the presence. It was another woman, similar in appearance to Emily but more ethereal, her features blurred, merging with the shadows. "You shouldn't be here," she warned, a tremor in her voice. "Where's Emily?" I demanded, stepping back instinctively. "She can't escape," the figure replied, her voice carrying a mournful note. "You must turn back." Before I could ask her to explain, she turned and ran into the trees, her form melding seamlessly into the night. I stood frozen, grappling with confusion and urgency. Was she trying to protect me, or was she withholding the answers I desperately needed? I looked back at the flowers, unsure whether to trust my instincts to stay or run back to my camp. Just then, a sharp snap echoed from behind me, and I whipped around to see a dark figure lingering at the edge of the clearing. My heart sank. Whatever it was too close. "Run!" I thought, just as the shadow stepped forward, revealing a face partially obscured by darkness. My body screamed to flee, but curiosity held me captive. Then everything went dark. My eyes shot open, but I found myself in a different place, a disorienting fog veiling everything around me. Panic surged as I tried to recall what had happened. The shadows had closed in, and now all I could see was gray. I felt weightless, like I was lost in some liminal space. "Emily!" I called, my voice echoing in the emptiness. There was no response. That I forced myself to breathe, fighting against the rising tide of fear. A dim light flickered nearby. A path? I squinted and started walking toward it. With every step, the fog felt thicker, wrapping around me like a cold shroud. As I approached the light, clarity emerged. There were trees, the clearing, and then her. Emily stood in the illuminated space, her figure outlined against the swirling mists. "Help me," she whispered, her voice fragile, almost drowned by the fog. "Emily!" I shouted, rushing forward, but she appeared to drift further away. I stretched toward her, desperation surging in my chest. Suddenly, she faced me, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't!" she cried, her voice sharp as glass. "You can't cross." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion warring with determination. "I came to find you." But as I reached for her, the shadows loomed, dark and menacing. A ripple of chilling laughter cut through the air, echoing from the depths of the trees. It was haunting, a promise of something sinister lurking just out of sight. "Leave." Emily's voice broke, and I felt an icy grip around my heart. "If you stay, they'll take you too." Before I could react, the fog thickened, swirling violently around me. I stumbled back, fear overwhelming my senses, when a dark shape lunged from the mist at my feet. It was the figure from the clearing, its face still shrouded. Panic clawed at me, and I turned to flee, scrambling through the fog toward the last flicker of light, but the terrain shifted beneath me. Roots tangled with my feet, and I fell hard on the ground, the breath knocked from my lungs. The laughter echoed again, and I realized there were more shadows, figures, watching, closing in. Then, abruptly, everything went silent. That I lay still, heart racing, trying to make sense of the newfound quiet. Slowly, I rose to my feet, brushing dirt from my clothes. The light had dimmed, the once inviting glow now paled. "Emily." I tried again, more softly this time, afraid of what the silence might swallow. I strained to see through the fog when a soft glow caught my eye, a path, faint but leading deeper into the woods. Instinct drove me to follow. Each step pushed away the underlying terror. What lay ahead? I paused to listen, hoping for any sign of her. Then something caught my attention, whispers again, rising and falling like a haunting melody. I followed, adrenaline surging. "Help!" a voice, unmistakably Emily's. "Where are you?" I yelled, heart hammering as I quickened my pace. As I turned a corner, the forest thinned. I emerged into another clearing, this one vibrant with the same colorful flowers, but they now looked wilted and fading, like remnants of something beautiful lost. The whispers turned frantic, swirling around me in a cacophony, and that's when I saw a glimpse of movement at the edge of the clearing. A figure crouched low beneath the branches, shrouded in the shadows. It was staring right at me. The figure didn't move, just watched as I stood frozen in place. My heart hammered in my chest. I couldn't tell if it was a person or something else entirely. I took a cautious step forward, squinting to catch more details. It seemed tall and thin, but the shadows obscured everything beyond its outline. "Emily?" I called again, my voice trembling. The figure shifted slightly, and the whispers around me escalated. It felt like every tree, every stalk of grass turned to eyes, all watching, judging. I took a step back, panic pooling again in my stomach. I could hear my breathing echoing in my ears, rapid and frantic. In that moment of fear, the figure spoke. Its voice was raspy, barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Where's Emily?" I demanded. The shadows seemed to draw closer, feeding on my fear. The figure pointed a long, bony finger toward the center of the clearing. "Follow," it said, the words slithering into my mind like a snake. Without thinking, I moved closer, as if drawn by an unseen force. But the deeper I ventured, the more the vibrant colors of the flowers faded into a dull gray. The laughter returned, swirling around my head like a storm, and I couldn't tell if it was coming from the figure or from somewhere far off in the darkness. "Emily!" I shouted again, my voice cracking. The figure straightened, becoming an even darker silhouette against the fading light. "You need to leave. They're coming for you." My mind raced. Who were they? Suddenly, the ground shook beneath me, roots spiraled from the earth, grasping at my ankles like hands trying to pull me under. I stumbled, falling to the ground, a mix of panic and confusion overwhelming me. Then, just as suddenly, everything stopped. The laughter faded. The tension in the air lifted. I scrambled back to my feet, heart racing. The figure was gone, swallowed by the shadows, leaving me alone once more in that eerie clearing. "Emily!" The silence mocked me. Desperation clawed at my throat. I scanned my surroundings again. Nothing but wilted flowers and gray mist. But then, in the distance, something flickered, a spark of light among the gloom. I rushed toward it without hesitation. My pulse quickened, perhaps this was the way to her. As I drew closer, I noticed it wasn't just light. There was a warmth, a feeling of safety that seemed to push against the chill around me. But with every step, doubt crept back in. What if I was being led into a trap? I hesitated, then forced myself to keep going. I wasn't going to stop searching for Emily. I had to know what happened to her. As the warmth enveloped me, I could feel a sense of urgency in the air, a warning that time was running out. Just as I reached the edge of the light, an ear-splitting shriek pierced the air. "Leave!" it cried, a voice unmistakably hers. My heart dropped. I stepped forward, but the light flickered violently. Shadows clawed at me, dragging me backward, just as the figure had warned. Trapped again, I fought against the dark, desperate to reach her. But the shadows seemed to swell, pushing me away from the light and the only hope I had left. I felt the shadows wrap around me, an icy grip that sent jolts of fear racing through my veins. They pulled and tugged like restless spirits, and I stumbled forward, fighting against their grasp. I couldn't lose her. Not now. "Emily!" I shouted again, but my voice felt too small. The shrieks resonated, a chilling echo of her warning, filling the air with a desperation I couldn't ignore. I strained against the dark arms trying to ensnare me, desperate to break free. The flicker of warmth remained, taunting me in the distance. I forced myself to focus, the light a beacon in the chaos. I took a deep breath and charged forward, fueled by a mix of fear and determination. Each step felt like a battle against the darkness, but I was not ready to give in. Suddenly, the ground beneath me lurched again, and I lost my balance, falling hard. I looked up just as a thick mist rolled in, swirling like a living thing. The shrieks faded momentarily, replaced by a low rumble that felt like the growl of some unseen beast. My heart hammered, and I scrambled to my feet, my eyes scanning the clearing. Then, something shifted in the mist. A figure emerged, but this time it was a child, small and frail, standing just on the edge of the light. My breath caught. "Emily?" I called, hope flickering like a candle in the wind. But the child only stared back, her eyes wide and dark, filled with a deep sadness. "You have to go," she whispered, her voice no louder than a breeze. "You can't stay here. It's not safe." What was happening? Was she real? I took a step closer, instinctively drawn to her, but the shadows lunged again. The mist thickened, and the child faded like a wisp of smoke, leaving behind only a whisper of warning. I stumbled back, anger surging in my chest. "Who are you?" I demanded to the emptiness, frustration pouring out of me. "Where is she? Where's Emily?" But the mist only pulsed around me, as if taunting my helplessness. I dropped to my knees, tears of frustration stinging my eyes. The light was dimming, flickering with uncertainty, and that sense of urgency grew stronger, pushing against my mind. Then, I saw it again, a shadow moving within the fog, low and purposeful. Glimpses of white caught my eye, and I blinked hard, straining to see through the haze. As I focused, I realized it was something else entirely, a figure cutting through the mist, sharp and menacing. My instincts kicked in, and I bolted to my feet. This wasn't part of the plan. I glanced back at the fading light. It was slipping away, and so was my chance to find Emily. Just as I turned, a guttural growl rumbled through the clearing. My heart froze. Something was coming for me. I broke into a run, adrenaline coursing through me as the shadows shifted, closing in like a living nightmare. I had no idea where I was going, I just knew I needed to get away. A clearing appeared ahead, and I charged toward it, praying for safety, for an answer, anything that would lead me to her. That's when I saw it. A small cabin, half hidden beneath overgrown vines and thick trees. A flickering light spilled from its windows, beckoning me closer. I hesitated. What if this was another trap? But the growl roared again from behind me, urging me forward. I reached for the door, hands trembling. The cabin felt like my only hope, but as my fingers touched the cold, rough wood, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching from the shadows, waiting for me to step inside. I flung the cabin door open and bolted inside, slamming it shut behind me. The flicker of light illuminated a single, dust-covered room filled with old furniture and remnants of a life long forgotten. My breath came in ragged gasps as I leaned against the door, trying to steady my racing heart. The growl outside reverberated through the wood, shaking me to my core. Whatever hunted me in the forest was close, the cabin offered little comfort. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay, but it felt safer than the shadowy woods outside. I turned to examine my surroundings. An old oil lamp flickered on a rickety table, its light casting anxious shadows across the walls. What had happened here? And where was Emily? Curiosity propelled me deeper into the room. I noticed a small bookshelf filled with dusty tomes. Titles like local folklore and the legends of the Appalachians stared back at me, their spines cracked and faded. One book caught my eye, its cover emblazoned with the same symbols I had seen etched into the trees. My heart raced. I reached for it, hoping to find answers. Just as I opened the book, the growl outside morphed into something else, a chorus of whispers that seeped through the walls, their incoherent sounds blending with the rustling leaves. I swallowed hard. I needed to stay focused. Flipping through the pages, I stumbled upon a passage about a woman who had gone missing in these very woods long ago. The stories spoke of dark forces and sacrifices made to the forest in exchange for protection. The hairs on my neck stood up. Had Emily become part of that dark narrative? Urgency coursed through me. I thumbed through old photographs tucked within the pages, pictures of the same symbols, a group of people gathered around a stone altar, some similar to the one I had seen. My hand trembled as I traced the images. Had they performed a ritual? As the growling intensified, panic surged. I had to find Emily. I reached for the cabin's lone window and peeked outside, peering into the enveloping darkness. The woods were an inky black, the faint whispers still tugging at my consciousness. Emily? I called again, desperation lacing my voice. Silence answered that. I turned back to the room, needing to focus, but something shifted in the corner of my eye. There stood a figure, barely visible in the light. It was her, Emily, just as I had seen her before, but now she looked more fragile, ethereal. Her eyes bore into me with unspoken urgency. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, her voice ethereal, mixing with the murmurs that crept from the shadows. "Help me find you," I pleaded, feeling a terrible sense of helplessness wash over me. "What happened? What do I need to do?" "The altar," she said simply, her image flickering like the lantern's flame. "You must go back." Before I could respond, she dissolved into the shadows, leaving me gasping. Panic gripped me anew. Whatever dark energy lingered beyond the walls sensed my fear, palpable in the air. The whispers grew louder, overwhelming. I felt an urge to flee, to escape, but the thought of leaving without finding her filled me with dread. I stuffed the book under my arm, my decision made. I had to go back to the altar, confront whatever was holding Emily captive. I threw open the cabin door once more and sprinted into the darkness, the cold air wrapping around me like a shroud. Every step felt like a battle against the encroaching shadows, the growl echoing more insistent now. I veered left, cutting through the thick underbrush until I reached the clearing. The altar loomed before me, familiar yet foreboding. The symbols seemed to shimmer under the moonlight, almost alive. I hesitated as the whispers escalated, urging me, tempting me to stay. But something in me fought against it, a pull that felt stronger than fear. "Emily!" I shouted, desperation ringing in my voice. Then came a chorus of cries. The others. The figures at the edge of the woods revealed themselves, shadows shifting into shapes, eyes gleaming with a haunting sorrow. "Help her!" they urged in unison, their voices mixing with the wind. The heaviness in my chest surged. What must I do? I demanded. The roses spiraled around me, the light and dark wrestling for dominance as the figures urged me forward. Something stirred within me. "You have to release her," the voices called. I took a step toward the altar, heart pounding. The growling shifted anger. Fear? I didn't know. Above all, I felt Emily's presence guiding me. I approached the altar and laid the book on its weathered surface. The symbols glowed softly, enveloping me in an otherworldly light. "Please, let her go," I cried, but the growl intensified. The shadows teetered on the edge of chaos, and I felt the ground shift beneath me, roots snaking to pull me back. For a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of Emily standing by the altar, her eyes meeting mine, pleading. I gathered my resolve and reached for the symbols, drawing upon the energy coursing through the air. The whispers crescendoed, tugging at my consciousness, but I hadn't come this far to turn back. I pressed my hands against the stone and closed my eyes, focusing on Emily's essence, determined to sever the ties that bound her. With every ounce of strength, I shouted, "You are free." And just like that, the world around me erupted into chaos. The shadows writhed, a powerful force pushed against me, echoing with anguish. The last thing I saw was Emily's smile, a glimmer of hope shining through the darkness. The whispers faltered, and then everything went black. I woke gasping on the forest floor, the cool earth grounding me. The dawn broke, illuminating the trees in ethereal gold. My heart raced as I scanned my surroundings. The altar was gone, the figures had dissipated. Had it all been a dream? I staggered to my feet, feeling disoriented, and then remembered the book. I reached for my pocket but found nothing. It was as if it had vanished just like the shadows, leaving me with nothing but questions in the rising sunlight. I made my way back down the trail, each step easing the fog from my mind. I still thought about Emily sometimes, about what I had encountered in those woods, questions swirling as I tried to comprehend it all. Sometimes, I wonder if those shadows still linger, waiting for the next soul to cross their path. But for now, I was free, yet I'd never be fully at peace. The mystery remained, echoing like a haunting hum, lingering just out of reach.